Throughout the history of DC Comics, there has been no shortage of reboots, relaunches, and alternate continuities. Now, we've touched on a number of these so far, namely the New 52 and the failed All-Star series of books, but there's another standalone universe that I want to touch on in this video, DC's Earth 1. For those of you who might be unaware, DC Comics has often used a multiverse in its storytelling, with a varied number of parallel realities existing and often being labelled as Earth 1, Earth 2 and so on. And traditionally, Earth 1 was often designated as the prime reality, meaning that it's the place that our version of the DC universe exists. However, by the late 2000s, following the Infinite Crisis miniseries, DC had begun to tweak its multiverse, with the prime reality now being designated as Earth 0. As a result, in late 2009, the company formally announced that they would be creating a new line of publishing, entitled Earth 1. This new universe, they stated, would be a complete clean slate, allowing writers and artists to tell brand new stories with established DC heroes, free to reinvent and reinterpret them in bold new ways. In a sense, the company sought to capture the success that Marvel had found with their Ultimate Universe. But could they? Today, in late 2019, the Earth 1 universe does still exist today, though I think it's fair to say that the series, despite some strong moments, never quite lived up to its potential or its expectations. But the question is, why? What happened to Earth 1? In this video, we're going to explore the origins and the ideas behind DC's Earth 1 series, examine the early successes and the failures of the titles they released, and attempt to uncover the reasons as to why it seemed to fall by the wayside, forgotten about by both its publisher and its fans, and ultimately never got the levels of success and recognition that it arguably deserves. The Earth 1 series was formally announced in December 2009, but DC's attempts to launch a new side universe didn't begin here. As we noted in a previous video, the company had attempted a similar venture in the mid-2000s, with the All-Star series of books being announced in 2005. And despite the success of Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's All-Star Superman, this series was ultimately scrapped following the seismic failure of Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. Earth 1, however, was a much different approach to storytelling to the All-Star series, with this universe placing a heavy focus on establishing younger, more inexperienced versions of the popular DC superheroes, and retelling their origins in the context of 21st century America. This was echoed in the company's press release upon announcing this line of books, which promised original stories featuring Batman and Superman in graphic novel form from the biggest creators out there. But these aren't one-offs. We're talking about ongoing series of original graphic novels in a new continuity, on a new Earth. Starting next year, DC Comics will unveil Superman Earth 1 and Batman Earth 1, two graphic novels spotlighting the most powerful heroes of the DC universe, with their first years and earliest moments retold in a standalone original graphic novel format, on a new Earth with an all-new continuity. One of the more interesting parts of DC's approach to this new universe was that, in contrast to how they would publish their other series with monthly or bi-monthly issues being eventually collected in a trade, all Earth 1 stories would be told in one singular graphic novel, one comic book with an entire story inside it. Naturally, this meant that their release schedule would be much less frequent than their mainline books. Initially, DC promised 2 new Earth 1 titles per year. But the promise was there for a true alternative method of storytelling, both in terms of their approach within the pages, and also in terms of publishing and release. The first 2 books announced, both then scheduled to be released in 2010, were Superman Earth 1, written by J. Michael Straczynski with art by Shane Davis, and Batman Earth 1 from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Anticipation was high for both of these new titles. Both creative teams had a difficult task ahead of them though. Not only did they have to redefine 2 absolute titans of the comic book industry, but while doing so, also create a brand new DC universe around them. It was by no means a simple and easy task, but their ultimate success or failure would determine the future of this entire Earth 1 line of books. Batman Earth 1 was ultimately delayed until 2012, partly to coincide with the release of The Dark Knight Rises, so this responsibility fell at the laps of Shane Davis and J. Michael Straczynski. Superman Earth 1 was to be the first step into this bold new world, but would it deliver? Superman Earth 1 Volume 1 was released in October 2010 and sought to tell a new origin story for the classic Man of Tomorrow. As Straczynski noted in an interview with Ain't It Cool News, the aim was to dig into the character and look at him through modern eyes. If you were to create the Superman story today for the first time, but keep intact all that works, what would it look like? It was monumental for us as comic readers to see Superman birthed for the first time. Volume 1 of Superman Earth 1 follows an early 20s Clark Kent as he journeys from his hometown of Smallville to Metropolis, trying out for various jobs, including pro baseball, finance, and scientific research, before choosing to pursue a career in journalism. The Earth is attacked by an alien armada soon after, led by a ruthless military general known as Tyrell. Tyrell issues an ultimatum to the planet: be destroyed or allow him to capture an individual hiding on Earth. Clark ultimately confronts the aliens dressed for the first time in the traditional Superman costume, and Tyrell reveals his true intentions. He states that he and his people hail from a planet that neighboured Krypton, which was trapped in a long and bitter war with Clark's world, ultimately taking credit for the destruction of Krypton and promising to kill Clark and end the Kryptonian race for good. Tyrell then catches Clark in a Red Sun high-gravity beam, immobilising him before he's rescued by Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, whom he'd saved earlier from Tyrell's soldiers. Now free, Superman continues his fight with Tyrell, vanquishing his foe before flying around the world to destroy a series of drills that his army were using to destroy the planet. With Earth saved, Clark returns to normalcy and attempts to find himself a job. The comic ends with him, now clad in an attire more fitting of his mild-mannered persona, arriving at the Daily Planet for a job interview, where he coins the name for this new mysterious superhero, Superman. This story, albeit similar to what Zack Snyder and David Goyer would ultimately come up with for 2013's Man of Steel, aimed to ground and humanise Clark in a way largely unseen in regular continuity. As Straczynski noted himself, the comic sought to explore the loneliness of a kid growing up knowing just how different he was from everyone else. At that age, we're all trying to figure out where the heck we fit in the world, with each other and with our dreams. Clark is no different at that age. If anything, his extraordinary abilities make that even more difficult. The traditional Clark Kent Superman leads with his chin. This Clark is a bit shy and unsure of himself, just as the world around him is unsure of who this guy is and what he wants. Upon its release, the first volume of Superman Earth 1 was met with mixed to positive reviews. Sites such as Newsrama, for instance, praised the book and described it as an unconscious reaction to Grant Morrison's invulnerable, easygoing all-star Superman. However, not all of the reviews were this positive. Some sites such as IGN criticised this interpretation of the character, describing this version of Superman as an angst-ridden cliché with a flimsy moral centre. However, it is clear that audiences were largely won over by Superman Earth 1, as the first volume sold over 30,000 copies by the end of 2010 and became the 5th best-selling graphic novel of that year. With Superman Earth 1's initial success, Straczynski and Davis were tasked with working on a follow-up, with Volume 2 being released in October 2012. However, before that was published, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's highly anticipated Batman Earth 1 finally hit shelves that June. With the Earth 1 line now established, this Batman series would prove to be a major sink or swim moment. Could the Earth 1 universe establish itself beyond one singular character and solidify itself as a thriving universe with multiple characters and stories? Batman Earth 1 was brought to life by the team of Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, two longtime faithfuls at DC Comics who had collaborated recently together on the Action Comics series. Johns, at this point, had forged a career for reinventing popular DC characters, having done so for his various rebirth titles for Green Lantern and The Flash, before becoming the chief creative officer of DC Entertainment in early 2010. Clearly, he was someone that DC trusted. Much like Straczynski and Davis did with Superman though, Johns and Frank sought to rebuild Batman from the ground up, tweak and alter things in their own image, and see how it would affect the rest of the character's status quo. As Johns told Ain't It Cool News, "Our Batman is a decidedly different Batman, yet it is, of course, Bruce Wayne. I want to let the book speak for itself, but Batman, Alfred, Detective Gordon, Arkham Manor, the twisted origin behind Gotham City, the Batmobile, and of course the world's greatest group of villains are all a part of the world we're creating. Some of the characters will more closely resemble the classic interpretations, while others will be wildly different. We're introducing a lot of new characters and elements to this Batman. The first graphic novel features an entirely new villain." The first volume of Batman Earth 1 was released in July of 2012, close to 2 years after the universe's previous entry, but was nevertheless met with a lot of anticipation. The comic introduces us to an early 20s Bruce Wayne, in the beginning of forging his career as the Dark Knight, but in a way that we're not really used to seeing. In this story, Bruce didn't travel around the world and become a martial arts expert or the world's greatest detective, and so he's hardly the seasoned crime fighter that we've come to expect. We learn that when Bruce was 8, his parents were shot and killed prior to his father's campaign for mayor, running against the incumbent Oswald Cobblepot, with Bruce's decision to become Batman born out of vengeance, believing that his parents' death were the result of a larger conspiracy. Meanwhile, we're introduced to some other familiar Batman characters, in the form of detectives Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock, with the former being depicted as a beaten down and weary cop, unable to save his city alone, and the latter a washed up TV detective looking to revive his career by solving the Wayne murders. After Batman makes his presence known to the city, interrogating a number of cops on the Penguin's payroll, the mayor hires a serial killer known as the Birthday Boy to deal with any officers that might speak out against him. Both Batman and Gordon's separate investigations lead them both to the Birthday Boy, as Gordon's actions see his teenage daughter Barbara be captured by the sadistic killer. Batman tracks the killer's location down to the abandoned Arkham Manor, while Gordon and Bullock arrive soon after. A fight ensues and Batman is able to defeat and subdue the Birthday Boy, while Gordon rescues his daughter. Following this, Bruce storms into Cobblepot's headquarters, intent on uncovering the conspiracy that caused his parents' death and finally getting his revenge. However, Bruce's clumsiness and inexperience causes him to expose his identity, with Cobblepot revealing that while he did put a hit out on Thomas Wayne, a random street mugger simply beat him to the punch. As Cobblepot prepares to kill Bruce, Alfred, Bruce's legal guardian, depicted as a former Royal Marine, storms into the room wielding a shotgun, blasting Cobblepot out of the window and to his death, and rescuing Bruce. The comic ends with Jessica Dent, a childhood friend of Bruce's, being appointed as the new mayor of Gotham, and Bruce, saddened by the realisation that his parents' deaths weren't the conspiracy he told himself, vows to continue being Batman, refining his persona and becoming the Dark Knight that we would come to expect. Batman Earth 1 Volume 1 was very well received upon its 2012 release. IGN rated the book a 9 out of 10, stating that not since the seminal Batman Year 1 have we gotten such a thoroughly fresh take on this story, and noting how, despite the less than favourable review the company gave to the Superman title, Johns and Frank have rejuvenated this line tenfold, and made sure that Batman fans have a great new graphic novel to rave about. The volume also sold over 45,000 units, becoming the third best-selling graphic novel of 2012. A follow-up volume was released in 2015, with Batman continuing on his early career, working alongside Gordon and Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc, to uncover a series of murders by a mysterious figure known as the Riddler. However, this 3-year gap between volumes does speak to one of the big problems that Earth 1 faced. While both books were positively received on their own accord by fans and critics, it did become hard for people to become invested in the Earth 1 universe, when it was often uncertain as to when the next instalment would actually come out. This often stop-start nature of the Earth 1 series, a result of the original graphic novel format that it was conceived as, arguably led to this universe never quite attaining the levels of success that it could. Unlike Marvel's Ultimate Universe, which had monthly new issues of their reimaginings of various characters, allowing readers to truly engross themselves in this new world, Earth 1 always felt like it was a low priority for DC Comics. I do think it's worth noting though a number of the other books published within this series. Firstly, in November 2014, Jeff Lemire and Terry Dodson teamed up to create Teen Titans Earth 1. Now this series spawned 2 volumes, and reimagined the Titans in a way more akin to Marvel's Runaways, with a lineup consisting of Cyborg, Changeling, Terra, Raven, Starfire and Tempest. Following this, Wonder Woman Earth 1 by Grant Morrison and Yannick Paquette was released in April 2016. This series is probably the most similar to any of the traditional counterparts, though it does focus on many aspects of the Wonder Woman character from the Golden Age, whilst also reimagining Steve Trevor as being African American. However, arguably the most interesting reimagining of all of the entire Earth 1 books came in March 2018, when Gabriel Hardman and Karina Becko's Green Lantern Earth 1 was released. This series completely reinvents the Hal Jordan character, depicting him as being an astronaut working on a mining expedition in an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter in the near future, where he discovers the wreckage of an alien ship carrying a Green Lantern ring. The comic infuses the classic Green Lantern mythos with a lot of space horror, taking many obvious cues from films such as Alien, with Jordan being attacked by a robot known as a Manhunter, leaving him stranded in space before being found by the Green Lantern Corps. He is eventually captured and imprisoned by the Manhunters on Oa, where it's revealed that the androids were built by the Guardians in order to destroy what was left of the Lanterns. Hal, working alongside his fellow captives, embraces his new role as a Green Lantern, destroys the Manhunters, and ultimately returns to Earth. I find this to be one of the most interesting reimaginings of the entire Earth 1 series, representing what the universe set out to be at its best. It takes the core essentials of an established character and completely rebuilds the mythos surrounding it from the ground up, and in this instance it does it to great success. Other proposed Earth 1 titles included Aquaman, with writer Francis Manpaul hired to develop the series in 2015, and a Flash book written by Superman Earth 1 writer J. Michael Straczynski. However, neither of these have appeared to come to fruition. And so, although the Earth 1 universe was never officially cancelled or scrapped, I think it's fair to say that the series has fallen by the wayside, and despite some strong entries in recent years, it'll likely never be able to regain the momentum that it did have when it was first announced. Speaking as someone who's a big fan of this universe, I think an argument could be made that what ultimately led to its downfall wasn't just the nature of how it was released, but also the fact that the uniqueness of it as a series of younger reimaginings of popular DC heroes was taken away when the New 52 began in 2011, with this initiative doing almost the exact same thing, just in the regular continuity. Not only that, but many of the key writers behind the Earth 1 books, especially the likes of Jeff Johns, Jeff Lemire and Grant Morrison, all had major roles in the early years of the New 52, limiting their ability and time to develop new stories for Earth 1. Regardless though, I think it's important to make sure that this video emphasises the fact that Earth 1 was by no means a failure. It's not a regrettable endeavour like Heroes Reborn was for Marvel, or what became of the All-Star series, because for so many people, Earth 1 represents an exciting period of time for DC Comics. It allowed new readers to jump in and see these long-established characters in ways never really seen before, and allowed those telling the stories to take risks that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. Now, I can't say that I personally loved every single series done in the Earth 1 universe, but I appreciate and support the creators' right to take those risks, and for the ones that I do love, I'm eternally grateful that we got them. Batman Earth 1 and Superman Earth 1 in particular resonated with so many people, and inspired so much of how those characters would be interpreted in later years. And I think while Earth 1 may not have lived up to its potential, As DC's answer to the Ultimate Universe, we should celebrate it for what it is, and the unique and brilliant stories that it gave us. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on the DC Earth 1 series. Which of these books have you read? What was your favourite? And what do you think the future holds for this continuity and this universe? Let me know down below. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please consider hitting the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of the new videos we make, and there should be some other videos on screen right now that you might enjoy if you did indeed enjoy this one. If you want to support the channel and help me make more videos, you can do so at Patreon and at Ko-fi. Links will be down below, and you can follow me on Twitter just at Owen Likes Comics. That's all for this video. I will see you all next time, so until then, take care and keep reading.